what if your decade-long career in public service, I mean, a career built on really foundational service, deep institutional knowledge, high-stakes decisions, what if that wasn't actually the end point? What if it was the essential, maybe even irreplaceable foundation for making a huge leap, a radical leap into high-level technology leadership?
That's a powerful starting point.
Right. Today, we're dissecting a transformation that's not just ambitious, it's, well, fundamentally strategic. We're looking at the journey of Dr. James Norcross. He's a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, a decorated police sergeant, transitioning basically out of the patrol car and into the executive suite.
Yeah. As a virtual chief information security officer, a VCISO, and a cybersecurity professor, it's a massive pivot, like you said.
Huge.
It really is. And, the sources we looked at don't just frame this as some kind of feel-good story. It's more than that. They actually provide a precise, almost actionable blueprint. We often see these big career jumps and we wonder, okay, how did they really pull that off?
Exactly. What were the actual steps?
Right. So our mission today in this deep dive is to unpack that source material. We want to focus specifically on the necessary academic infrastructure and the really strategic decisions Dr. Norcross made. We want to pinpoint the critical role that specialized education played.
Specifically, that Master of Science in Information Systems.
Precisely. That degree and also the targeted mentorship he received. How those things translated all that deep public sector experience into, well, high-demand cybersecurity expertise.
Okay, so to really grasp the scale of this shift, we need to start at the beginning, right?
Absolutely. Context is key.
Dr. Norcross's background is just steeped in service. Marine Corps veteran, served in the Texas Army National Guard, and then over 10 really demanding years in law enforcement. He finished that service as a police sergeant in the DFW area, which is, complex, high pressure.
And his academic background before this pivot was just as cemented in public life. He got his BA in criminal justice, which is pretty standard for that field. But then he pursued an MPA, a Master of Public Administration, focusing on human resources. So everything was geared towards public policy, governance, managing people.
Totally public sector focus.
Completely. And I think the fascinating part of this story, what the sources really highlight, is how we recognize that all this immense institutional knowledge, how government actually works, how policy gets made, where the real risks are hidden, he saw how that could be, well, weaponized in a positive sense.
Weaponized, I like that.
Yeah, by strategically overlaying a rigorous technical high-growth credential on top of it, like the MS in information systems.
Okay, let's unpack that pivot point then, the moment of change. Why did someone who had established success, over a decade invested, 2 degrees already in public service, why suddenly jump into the tech deep end, specifically information systems? What was that definitive catalyst? What pushed him off that public affairs track?
Well, the sources point to a pretty classic scenario. Innovation born from frustration.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't really dissatisfaction with the core mission of law enforcement, protecting life and property. It was more about the tools, the often archaic technology and the bureaucratic lag that actually hampered that mission. He was motivated by the severe limitations he saw firsthand every day in public safety tech systems.
I can imagine. Slow systems, data stuck in silos.
Exactly. Think about mission-critical systems that are slow, siloed, probably vulnerable, and often years behind what the private sector has. That had to be frustrating.
Definitely.
And he realized his role as a sergeant was mainly reactive. You investigate a crime after it happens, you respond to an incident, you use the often clunky tech you're given. The strategic shift he made was profound. He decided to move from being an expert in response to becoming an expert in, well, prevention and architecture.
Proactive versus reactive.
Precisely. In high-level cybersecurity, the whole game is proactive. You're building comprehensive fortifications, strategic frameworks, protecting organizations before the threat even hits the door. He understood, I think, that to really solve the systemic security problems he saw in the public sector, he needed more. He needed the technical and strategic knowledge, the knowledge to build, to secure, and to fundamentally understand these systems from the ground up. He had to move past just being a frustrated user.
That distinction is so important, isn't it? It's not just changing jobs, it's changing your whole philosophical approach to risk. Moving from the tactical, like, what do I do when the network goes down, to the strategic, how do I design a network that ideally never goes down? Or maybe more realistically, one that can withstand the inevitable threats.
It's exactly. Designing for resilience. So once he made that decision, the why, then came the how. Why this specific program? the Master of Science in Information Systems at Tarleton State University.
Hmm.
You're right, there are lots of cybersecurity degrees out there now. Why this particular program in this specific college, the Dr. Sampak College of Business?
Yeah, what made it stand out?
According to the sources, that decision was really calculated, especially for someone like him, an adult learner, a veteran, balancing a very high-demand job. It wasn't just about finding any degree. It was about finding the one that delivered maximum ROI and could integrate with his existing life. The sources really stress 3 critical factors.
Okay, what are they?
First, and maybe most practical, was flexibility. The MS and IS program at Tarleton is 100% online.
Which is huge.
We really can't overstate how vital that is for someone managing a police sergeant's schedule. You've got shift work, potential overtime, community stuff. That flexibility means you don't have to put your current career or your family life completely on hold to pursue the next one. It, mitigates the risk of making that pivot.
That logistical benefit is massive, absolutely. But let me push back just a little here. Lots of online programs offer flexibility.
Sure.
So why was it significant that this MSIS program specifically offered the kind of high-level research path he needed to eventually get into a PhD program? Did he sacrifice some perceived academic prestige, often associated with traditional in-person research degrees, just for convenience? And how did the program and that mentorship you mentioned overcome that perception?
That's a really fair critique, and I think the answer lies in the program's context and structure. Flexibility was the entry point, sure, but the academic substance was the differentiator. The second factor was affordability. That helped mitigate the financial risk of pivoting careers, making the program a sound investment for an adult learner.
Makes sense.
But addressing your prestige critique head-on, that's where the third factor comes in. Faculty mentorship, and importantly, the program's placement within the Dr. Sampak College of Business.
Okay, how does being in a business college change things?
Well, first off, it's an AACSB accredited program. That immediately signals a certain level of quality and rigor. But more than that, being housed within a college of business means the curriculum isn't just focused on code and hardware. It's focused on the management, the strategy, the governance, the financial implications of information systems.
The bigger picture.
Exactly. That blend is precisely what executive roles, like a VCISO, demand. And then you add the deep commitment to mentorship. The sources specifically cite Dr. H.Schuessler's guidance on his thesis as being absolutely critical. It wasn't just about convenience, it validated the academic rigor and fueled his highest aspirations.
So they weren't just teaching him technical skills.
No, they were cultivating him, developing him into a high-level academic and executive thinker. That mentorship really bridged any perceived gap between online flexibility and academic depth.
That explains the why and the how of choosing the program. But let's talk about the acceleration. That leap seems huge. How does a dense academic project, a master's thesis, become the immediate springboard for getting into a highly competitive PhD program and gaining the credibility for an executive security role?
Yeah, it does feel like a massive leap, doesn't it? And this is where the MS in AS really shows its value beyond typical vocational training. It acted as a genuine career accelerator for him. See, Dr. Norcross's thesis work wasn't just theoretical navel-gazing. It was focused squarely on applied, high-level organizational strategy.
Okay.
His research specifically examined stage models for information system security. Now, to listeners, that might sound a bit abstract.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's absolutely foundational for security leadership. Think of an organization's security posture, like climbing a staircase. Stage models provide a framework, kind of like a GPS, to assess exactly where an organization stands on that staircase.
Yeah.
Are they at level 1, totally reactive and ad hoc, or level 5, optimized and proactively managed?
Okay, I see. It gives you a benchmark.
Exactly. And critically, it offers a disciplined roadmap to actually ascend to a higher, more defensible stage. This helps leaders prioritize where to put security investments, it helps them quantify their security maturity level, and crucially, it helps them communicate progress to, say, a board of directors who might not understand the technical weeds.
So by mastering that specific topic for his thesis, he essentially demonstrated he could do more than just understand technical threats.
Right.
He showed he could provide structured, long-term strategic planning for governance and investment. That immediately elevates him, doesn't it? From technician to architect.
Precisely. That's the perfect analogy. It's the difference between noticing a broken window and designing the entire security system for the skyscraper. The sources explicitly state that this graduate research laid the direct foundation. It proved his capacity for original, high-level strategic thought. And that's why he was competitive enough to get accepted into that rigorous doctoral program, the PhD in Public Affairs, but with a focus on cybersecurity and information systems at UT Dallas. His MS thesis was basically like a large-scale published white paper on high-level security governance.
And you can see the immediate ROI on developing those research skills, can't you? He didn't just stop at getting the PhD acceptance.
No way.
He then leveraged those skills to publish multiple papers, case studies, getting into complex topics beyond just systems architecture like the ethics, the policy, the public sector, IT challenges. That ability to research complex stuff, synthesize it, and publish it, that's a highly marketable credential in itself. It instantly validates his expertise to employers, to academic peers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that kind of rigor, especially when you're balancing work and life, it really requires guidance. We simply cannot talk about this acceleration without doing a deep dive into the pivotal role of mentorship.
Okay.
This relationship he had, particularly with Dr. Schuessler, may be the most significant non-curricular takeaway here for any adult learner listening. You need more than just a professor teaching classes. You need a champion.
Let's dig into that. What were Dr. Schuessler's specific contributions? How did that mentorship actually transform ambition into the reality of a PhD acceptance?
Okay, the mentorship seems to have provided three really essential interlocking benefits. First, Dr. Schuessler helped him refine his research topic.
Oh.
Well, think about a career changer like Dr. Norcross coming in. He's got all these real-world problems and frustrations, right? Like system inefficiencies in his police department. The mentor helps translate those practical frustrations into an academically viable, high-impact research question. Something like, the security maturity models we just discussed. This ensures the work is both properly scholarly and practically relevant.
Got it. Grounding the academic work in real problems.
Exactly. Second, the mentor served as a tangible model. Dr. Schuessler showed him what effective, student-centered, real-world teaching and academic professionalism actually look like in practice. This was invaluable because Dr. Norcross was already thinking ahead, planning the next phase, which included teaching. So he wasn't just learning content, he was learning how to lead within both academic and executive contexts.
Learning the ropes of academia and leadership by example. And the third benefit.
The push. The encouragement. He actively encouraged Dr. Norcross to pursue doctoral-level study.
That validation must have been huge.
Immense. That you are ready for this next level of validation, especially coming from an established expert in the field. That's often the difference maker. It can be the thing that pushes someone from stagnation into transformation. It gave Dr. Norcross the confidence, and probably some practical insights too, needed to navigate that demanding PhD application process.
And this level of faculty support, this focus on practical, applicable research, you're saying that's characteristic of the program?
Yes, the sources suggest it's a hallmark of the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business at Tarleton State University. It seems like a culture designed to propel professionals, especially those coming from diverse backgrounds like law enforcement or the military, into the highest levels of leadership.
Okay, connecting the dots then.
Right. Let's connect all these pieces to the bigger picture. The goal wasn't just getting a degree or writing a paper. The real goal was that professional transformation into an executive leader. So what did that specific blend the business acumen and the technical language he gained in the MS, in iOS, actually enable him to achieve professionally in his current roles?
Well, the outcome is this really powerful combination, isn't it? He's shaping the future now as a cybersecurity professor at Dallas College. But maybe even more tellingly, he's actively executing strategy as a virtual chief information security officer, a VCISO.
And we should probably define that VCISO role a bit more clearly for our audience. It's not just being a consultant who pops in and out.
Right, it's different.
A VCISO is essentially outsourced, high-level executive security leadership. They act like a fractional C-suite member for security. Dr. Norcross helps organizations, small businesses, nonprofits, public institutions across DFW that often can't afford a full-time, maybe 6- or 7-figure CSO.
So he brings that top-level expertise to organizations that otherwise wouldn't have access.
Exactly. He helps them build and implement robust, strategic cybersecurity programs. And that requires him to integrate strategy, budgeting, governance, technology, all at once.
And those high-level VCISO duties, you're saying they map directly back to the information systems curriculum?
Directly. This isn't just technical troubleshooting anymore. It's about GRC governance, risk, and compliance. The MSIS provided that deep foundational understanding of these strategic pillars.
Okay, give us an example.
Okay, so one of his core responsibilities is conducting detailed risk assessments. To do that effectively, you have to understand modern GRC frameworks. A good VCISO needs to be fluent in things like the NIST cybersecurity framework, which helps organizations manage and reduce cyber risk. Or maybe ISO 27001, the International Standard for Information Security Management.
Frameworks that provide structure.
Right. These assessments determine where the organization is vulnerable, what standards they must adhere to based on their industry. Healthcare is different from finance, which is different from a local nonprofit.
That level of detail really underscores how this is a blueprint. We're talking specific, almost certifiable knowledge here. What about policy reviews and incident response?
Crucial areas. For security policy reviews, the MSIS graduate needs to understand both the legal and regulatory landscape, which, honestly, his law enforcement background probably helped with immensely, but also the technical feasibility of enforcing those policies. You have to write policies that are compliant, yes, but also practical. Policies the IT team can actually implement without grinding everything to a halt.
Makes sense. And incident response.
Incident response planning.
Yeah.
That's maybe the ultimate high-stakes application of his past experience combined with the MSIS. His background as a sergeant taught him how to manage chaos, follow strict chain of custody protocols during an investigation. Invaluable skills. The MSIS just overlays the technical structure onto that foundation. It teaches things like digital forensics readiness, network containment strategies, disaster recovery procedures, all of which rely on a deep knowledge of systems architecture.
And this all feeds into his specialization, right? Providing practical, affordable solutions, especially for public institutions.
Exactly. He's not just setting up a firewall for a tech startup. He's navigating the often murky waters of state compliance, specific government regulations, often within resource-constrained environments. That blend, his deep public sector knowledge, combined with the systematic risk management skills honed in the MSIS program. That's why he's effective. He can talk policy, he can talk budget limitations, and he can talk technical threat vectors. He speaks all the languages.
Which brings us back to that crucial bridge concept you mentioned earlier.
Yes. The concept that Dr. Norcross explicitly credits the Tarleton program with providing the business acumen and the technical language needed to bridge that gap, that communication gap between the deep technical teams and the executive leadership.
So it's like translation, isn't it?
It is translation. Think about it. The security engineers, they're talking threat actors, protocols, zero-day vulnerabilities, maybe the intricate details of packet switching and network traffic, stuff that makes executives' eyes glaze over.
Right.
The executives, meanwhile, they speak the language of quarterly risk reports, budgetary constraints, ROI, maybe shareholder value.
Totally different worlds.
Totally. A VC ISO must be fully bilingual in this context. They have to translate a technical necessity like, look, we need to invest $500,000 in implementing a zero-trust architecture into a compelling business imperative. Something like, okay, that investment will reduce our regulatory fine exposure by 80% and directly protect our projected quarterly revenue stream.
Turning tech speak into business impact.
Precisely. And being housed within the Dr. Sampak College of Business, that environment inherently ensures graduates develop this crucial translation ability. It moves them from being stuck at the command line to being comfortable and effective in the boardroom.
Okay, so we've detailed the whole mechanism of this transformation. Now let's make it really actionable for someone listening right now. For that person maybe feeling stuck or looking seriously at changing fields. If the goal is this kind of massive career transformation, who is the ideal candidate for an MS in information systems based on Dr. Norcross's story?
Based on the evidence in the sources, the Master of Science in Information Systems seems like a really powerful pathway for, I'd say, 3 specific audiences, because it provides that highly structured way to capitalize on existing strengths, even non-technical ones.
Okay, who's the first group?
First, military veterans. They come in with ingrained leadership skills, experience making decisions under intense pressure, structured thinking, integrity. These are absolutely non-negotiable qualities in cybersecurity leadership. The MS in IS allows them to take those foundational skills and apply them directly in high-growth, often remote-friendly tech careers. They don't need to learn discipline. They just need the technical vocabulary and the strategic frameworks like NIST or maybe CMMC for defense contractors, which the degree provides.
Makes perfect sense. Group 2.
Second, law enforcement and public service professionals. This is right in Dr. Norcross's wheelhouse. These are people looking to leverage their deep understanding of policy, high-stakes investigations, public trust. But they often desire, perhaps, the stability or the higher potential career ceiling found in private sector tech. The MS in IS provides the crucial technical credential to make that switch feel much more seamless. It validates their existing knowledge of things like compliance audits, policy adherence, forensic investigation protocols, skills that are incredibly valuable in cybersecurity, especially incident response.
Validating existing skills, giving them a new context, and the third group.
And third, I'd say the general career changer who has significant experience in other complex or regulated fields. Think finance, healthcare administration, logistics. These professionals have incredibly valuable real-world organizational experience. They understand risk management, resource allocation, maybe organizational behavior modeling, but they need those updated, specialized technical credentials to pivot into technology leadership. The MSIS provides that necessary technical toolkit while explicitly honoring, not discarding, their existing business or operational experience.
Which leads us right back to his most actionable piece of advice.
It's not about starting, it's about leveling up.
That's such a crucial mindset shift, isn't it? You're not throwing away 10 years of service or experience.
Not at all.
You're leveraging that institutional knowledge, that practical wisdom, and essentially weaponizing it, as you said, with new technical skills.
Exactly. And to level up effectively, it does require smart financial planning. He emphasized leveraging existing resources. For veterans, use your VA education benefits. You earn them, they're an asset. For professionals currently working, aggressively look into employer tuition reimbursement programs. Many companies offer them.
Treat it like an investment.
Treat the MSIS like a strategic asset purchase, not just an expense. That really helps mitigate the financial risk of going back to school as an adult.
And critically, tying back to what we discussed about mentorship, the importance of proactive support, this kind of massive pivot isn't usually a solo journey.
Definitely not. His advice reflects that. Seek out mentors. Find people, whether they're academic like Dr. H.Schuessler or professional contacts, who will both challenge you academically and support your ambitious growth plans. You need both.
So you can almost summarize this entire blueprint by looking at the specific career ladder the MSIS program helped him climb. It wasn't accidental.
No, the ascension was deliberate, stepwise. He moved from working with in-city government, experiencing those frustrations with old systems, to becoming an IT administrator. The MSIS gave him that foundational technical literacy. Then, that IT admin role led directly to becoming a cybersecurity specialist. That's where he started applying his governance research in real time.
Okay.
That specialization, backed by the rigor of his MSIS research we talked about, that's what catapulted him to PhD candidacy. It demonstrated his capacity for high-level original thought.
And from PhD, too.
And ultimately, this whole trajectory led to his current executive roles. College professor, shaping the next generation, and executive VCISO, applying strategy in the real world.
That progression really shows the MSIS wasn't just an endpoint credential. It acted as a strategic launchpad. It validated his past experience while giving him the specialized business and technical language needed for those executive functions.
And the foundation for this blueprint, just to reiterate for listeners, is clear. The MS in Information Systems, offered through the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business at Tarleton State University. It's AACSB, accredited signaling quality and business relevance. It emphasizes maximum flexibility for full-time workers. And it seems explicitly designed for the real-world application of information systems in business, security, and even public affairs contexts.
Which brings us towards the end of this deep dive into, well, strategic career transformation. I think the overarching theme we've really extracted from these sources is pretty undeniable. A radical career pivot, it's absolutely possible at almost any stage, provided you make a calculated educational risk, a strategic academic investment, and you intentionally seek out that strong mentorship that can really propel you forward.
Yeah, and Dr. Norcross's final reflection really ties back perfectly to that sense of almost disbelief that can come with these huge transformations. He said something like, if you told me 15 years ago I'd be a cybersecurity professor with a PhD, I wouldn't have believed you. But, he said, it started with one decision, to invest in myself and go back to school. That single decision, prioritizing specialized knowledge and seeking out mentorship, that was the launch pad. It validated a decade of service and unlocked a completely new career path.
One decision.
One decision, which I think raises an important question for you, the listener, to reflect on. Given the stability, the high-growth potential, the absolute necessity of cybersecurity leadership and high-level information systems roles today, What one strategic decision are you maybe putting off right now that could fundamentally redefine your own career path over the next 5 years?
That's a powerful question to leave people with. And if you are motivated, if you're ready to take that next strategic step, and maybe you're looking for a program that really blends that maximum flexibility with practical learning and executive focus and future-focused career prep,
Right.
well, perhaps explore the Master of Science in Information Systems offered through the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business at Tarleton State University.
Seems like a solid option based on this case.
Absolutely. Remember, technology moves incredibly fast, but the people who truly succeed, like Dr. Norcross, are often the ones who become bilingual. They can speak both the language of, say, packet switching and the language of executive strategy. Go level up your bridge building skills. Start architecting your future.